hi people, or if there's any people, there'll be people eventually. Um, so yeah, New York City is crazy. I think after the last video I made, I slept for 11 and a half hours, and then of course interacted with people and stayed up forever and stare at the phone and then turn the phone off at 9 p.m. and leave it off for 12 hours. So one of these nice practices that I read about was like, you can give yourself a moment of silence. Give yourself a silent morning. Leave the phone turned off. Don't look at the internet. Don't look at the TV. Don't listen to music. And, see your viewers. Swipe left to see. Thank you, Facebook. You're fascinating. Hello, Michael. Good evening. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, seeing I've been back in New York, not a week, half a week. Thank you, Brett. So one of the experiences I've been having while having returned to New York is this fascinating distortion of time and space. The last 3 months I've mostly spent sitting down with my eyes closed. Now, I did go on a lot of walks, and even part of the meditation was about walking, so there was that. And I spent a lot of time in nature, so I got to see the time change, the seasons change, really intimately. This beautiful summer forest into autumn forest, into winter forest, and winds and rain and snow. It was gorgeous. That being said, as I come back to the city and interact with people in my life, I feel like I just saw them a week ago. Hi, Dustin. I didn't see you at Yoga Butts. But I feel like the people I'm seeing, I'm just like, yeah, I just saw you a week ago, like in my regular life, and in your regular life, you do the same thing over and over and over. You run into people, you see them when you see them. And so when I see these people that I haven't seen for over 3 months, I have this feeling like I just saw them, because the last 3 months I've spent trying to stay in the present moment. So time hasn't moved the same way at all. And it's becoming very poignant, and it's, I'm crazy at the best of times, so it's really fascinating, and I allow myself to be crazy. So it's very nice to feel that strange schism in reality. Schism, rhyming with schizophrenia. No. So like last night I saw my Yoga Buds group, and it was just this really you guys have been doing something for the last 3 months, but it feels like it was just a blip. Like there was a week and I came and it was just like any other week, but of course it wasn't. I went to my acupuncture clinic today where I work, and it was the same kind of feeling, like, yeah, I'm here all the time. That being said, I'm very distorted. The time-space thing of being here in the city is very distorted. I've been stuck in Groundhog Day the last 3 months. It's been the same schedule every day, and it's like you don't really have to make decisions. I was making decisions, but you don't have to. You can just go and sit and walk and sit and walk and try to stay with the breath and try to stay in the present moment. Notice what you're hearing. Notice what you're thinking. Notice what you're feeling. One of my friends last night mentioned that something I said in my first video really inspired him, and it just kind of, his mind picked it up, and he's been spontaneously doing some of the meditations. So I'm going to teach some guided meditations and do some meditation technique talks. I thought maybe I would be doing this every day, but I just don't have the time and energy to do this every day. It's amazing to me how exhausting it is to be back in New York City. But I wanted to speak a little bit about distance, because I think a lot of you have probably had experiences to varying degrees with the myth of distance and intimacy. We all, to a certain degree, believe in reality, the reality we live in the time and separation, duality, distance. I keep saying distance, space. Space. I believe in space. I put a YouTube link in the description here for this Pixies song. I had thousands of songs in my head, maybe hundreds, during the retreat, and that was one that prominently featured because it's about a guy traveling while sitting, which I did a lot of. That's what it's about. But it's about believing in space. So one of the experiences I've had repeatedly through my life. I grew up in rural Indiana, which was a lonely experience with lots of cornfields and emptiness and loneliness. And I got into the internet and bulletin board systems really young and would chat with people a lot, which some of you who are old enough remember the loneliness of chatting, typing when you couldn't send pictures even. And I was going to say vulgar, but I'm just who I am. I've been a very sexual person most of my life. So in the early days of cybersex, it was really fascinating to me that I could be typing to somebody and feeling them in my body. And this was before I got into meditation or yoga, but like typing and feeling a type of physical resonance with whoever I was talking with. I think this was even, I think this was before I even smoked pot, but I think it was in the same era that I started smoking pot. So. Not that I'm a pothead, even though I look like a pothead, I rarely ever do it on my own. I know I look like a total stoner, and I even talk like a stoner sometimes, but it's mostly I do marijuana with other people. A lot of my friends I did marijuana with as a teenager. Hi Sharon, I love you. I would love to just talk about all of the people that log on and how they inspire me, and I love them, but I'm going to try to stay on topic here. So, hi Sean, I love you too. One of the people that has been watching these videos regularly commented that I watched your video the next morning because I wasn't free when you were doing it live, and it just didn't feel the same. And another person, yes, Sandra, you do inspire me. I'll talk about that later. Stop. No, you don't have to stop. It's fine. And another person that I've just met this year on the internet, like I've never met him in person, and who knows if I ever will, but I have this kind of like cam relationship with him, if you know what that means, for those people who know what that means. And what's really fascinating is, again, we have a very intense physical resonance, regardless of the fact that he's in Kentucky and I'm in New York, or wherever I am. And I wanted to relate that to this other person, I think his name was Mark, saying that watching the video when I'm not actually doing it, when it's not actually live, how it feels so different. And that anybody who's done Reiki or is a psychic or does energy healing knows, or has had the direct experience, that space is, just like everything else in this realm, an illusion. And so if you have a connection with someone, so if you're somebody who knows me personally or knows me mythologically because you're a Facebook friend and we've never met in person, when I'm actually doing this and you're actually watching it, you are actually connecting with me in person as a real person. Hi, John. Even though we're not having a conversation, I'm just talking. But there's a resonance that I'm giving off from my heart, body, different chakras and energy fields and stuff that is directly affecting your body. And some of you who have worked on being receptive to the subtle energies of the world can feel that and respond to it and be aware of it articulately and acutely. But that can be used a lot in spiritual practice. So people who are Christians who pray, something that totally freaked me out when I was a kid and was very, very anti-Christian, was when people would be like, I pray for you. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Don't pray for me. But, I got into Reiki throughout the years and I've made peace with Christianity. And in the last few years, I've been doing a lot of Qigong. And in this meditation retreat I was in, again, there's a big part of it that is about heart training. And different teachers in this lineage of Buddhism. This lineage of Buddhism is very science-oriented. Like, they keep referring to like physics and evolution, and they're like, well, the mind is very trained by thousands of years of evolution to be aware of negativity as opposed to positivity, because it's much more threatening that if something negative is going to happen, it might kill you. So we're more attuned to, like, our mind constantly turns to negativity and doesn't give a lot of weight to positivity because it's fine. Like, it's not a life or death situation if something good happens, but it's a life or death situation if something bad happens. So we tend to weight the badness in life more, so this is something that these teachers talk about a lot, which the Buddha wouldn't have talked about at all because he lived in a very different time with very different knowledge. But the teachers here teach the heart training to be like, you connect with people who aren't obviously there because you're sitting with your eyes closed. You connect with people you have a good relationship with and open your heart to them and share kindness with them. That's this lineage is more about kindness, whereas Tibetan is more about compassion, but you open your heart. And so if you think of the first person who pops into your mind who you have an easy relationship of love and friendliness with, friendliness, it's a key word, and you smile, you feel the open-heartedness, connecting with them. And again, this lineage of Buddhism, they often say, like, this is about training your heart. It's not about affecting the other person. Because even though you're opening your heart to them and you're feeling a friendly, open-hearted connection with them, and then part of the practice is you wish them well. Some of the regular words are, may you be free of hatred and ill will, because that closes your heart. So may you be free of hatred and ill will. That allows the heart to be open. May you be free of mental suffering or confusion and agitation of the mind, which allows you to have clear seeing when you're not agitated and confused and pissed off and frustrated. May you be free of physical troubles, physical suffering. That could be illness, pain, lack of money, lack of resources. And may you be able to take care of yourself with ease and happiness. These are very nice wishes to wish at someone, and yet they say you have to not be attached at all to your wishes actually affecting the person you're wishing. That being said, I have had countless experiences in my life, and I'm sure you have as well, where you will think of someone, maybe you'll smile, and they'll call you. I literally just got off the train and thought of someone, walked into the store, bought some stuff, and then looked at my phone, and he had sent me a text. And obviously, the more you have a connection with someone, the more you've spent physical time with them and developed an actual relationship as opposed to a fantasy relationship, the deeper that empathetic connection gets that totally defies space and time. So I guess I just wanted to speak to that, and that for the last 3 months, time feels really distorted for me returning here and being like, wow, you guys have all had this life going on and the Trump going on and the whatever news revolves, and the fires and the riots and the Brexit and all these events. That's not what I was doing. I was just trying to stay in the moment. And it was so weirdly, like one of the practices, which I'm going to talk more about later, is like guarding the sense doors, where you literally just make notes of what you're experiencing. And it can be totally simple without content. And so if you reduce the experience of reality to hearing, feeling, breathing, hearing, seeing, it causes reality to really distort, because it doesn't, reality's held together by stories. It's given meaning by stories, and it has a million frame stories around it that give it a structure, that give it meaning. And your frame story might be Jesus, and it might be Tao, and it might be Buddha, and it might be aliens, and it might just be matter and science. It might not be any of that. It might be money. It might be something, music. So if you remove all the content, it really causes reality to distort, and that's one of the things that we do there. And of course, one of the practices as well is not taking anything personally, which a lot of people bandy about. I remember a decade ago, there was this book called The Four Agreements that everybody was like, yeah, and I've met so many people that are like, yeah, I really just try to stick to the Four Agreements. And I'm like, okay, I read that book, and it was really trendy at the time. Lots of people gave it to me, and I remember like one of the main ones is not take anything personally. And all these people who were like, yeah, I try to stick to the Four Agreements, they take shit personally all the time. It's really difficult not to take things personally, because we believe we're a person and we believe we have a self. And the essence of not taking things personally is understanding that you're like a leaf on a tree. Like you're totally not you're not anything separate. And the essence of what you are is totally not important. Like you are a leaf on a tree. You are something that comes into existence, serves a purpose that you don't understand, and then falls. And then serves another purpose and turns back into dirt. That's much more the truth of what we are than we're an eternal soul that's going to go to heaven and has to do good so we can evolve our soul and all this stuff that people talk about. But these stories are important. Now I'm just rambling. But really what I wanted to talk about was the importance of understanding that the world we live in is an illusion, and allowing our resonance with things that aren't happening now and aren't happening here to be just as true as what we see when we open our eyes, which is just as much as an illusion as the distance and the time. These are very useful illusions that allow the miracle of the mundane world to happen. But you know, it's nice that, like, right now, whoever you are, if you've met me or never met me, you're spending time with me, and I'm spending time with you, and I can feel stirrings in my body, and I don't know who that's coming from. But it's nice that you can just remove all the mysticism from it and be like, right now, we're really having these experiences, you know, separated by our time and space and reality and beliefs. But it's all happening right now. And I don't know, I think it's beautiful. So I've put together a big list of all the other things I'm going to talk about, and as I've said in other videos, you can ask me questions if you want me to talk about anything. Anything really, it doesn't have to be Buddhist oriented. You can, you know, I do have a list of things, so it'll be a bit of a backlog, but I'll do my best to make time to do this regularly because I enjoy it. Everything is always, all the time. Yes, Sean, and there's a really great line by David Byrne and Brian Eno where everything that happens, happens today. Which could just say everything that happens, happens right now. Because it's the only time that anything is happening. It's the only time that's real. But I am going to give a meditation technique video where I'll talk more about that later. Much love. I'm going to go see a burlesque with some friends that one of them I went to Mongolia with 16 years ago, and or 15 years ago, and I imagined that I wanted to see him when the retreat got out, and so he texted me yesterday and he said, hey, I'm going to go see a show right next to your house. Do you want to go with us? It's an amazing fucking world we live in, right? Okay. May you all be free of hatred and ill will. May you be happy. May you have the causes of happiness. May you be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Have a nice night.